Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are opening up a really unusual stack of sources.
Yeah, this is not our usual fare.
Not at all. We're not looking at, macroeconomic trends or deep-sea geological surveys. We are analyzing dialogue and narrative excerpts.
From a dramatic work, right?
Yeah.
Not another happy ending.
Exactly. And it gives us this incredible, almost voyeuristic look into the world of literary publishing.
Which is, it's just famously cutthroat and complex. And this gives us a front row seat.
A front row seat to the psychological drama. The whole thing tracks the agonizing intersection of a writer's personal pain and their creative output.
And their commercial output. That's the key.
Yes. So, okay, let's unpack this a bit and sort of set our mission for today. We're essentially charting a covert operation here.
The pursuit of a bestseller.
Right. And our sources show us what key industry players, specifically this high-pressure publisher, what they believe drives genius.
Which is misery, trauma, all the dark stuff.
Versus what the market actually demands, which is, often the tidy, happy, commercially acceptable.
So our goal is really to dissect the trajectory of these characters. We're going to focus on the writer, Jane Lockhart, and how her shift towards stability and happiness is seen. Well, it's seen as a commercial threat by her publisher.
A threat. That's the perfect word for it. This isn't just about creative differences. It's about how creative control morphs into personal manipulation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so before we jump into the chaos, let's just quickly map out the players. First, we have Jane Lockhart. She's the writer. Her debut was a huge hit, but now she is completely blocked on book.
Then there's Tom, the French publisher at Wandering Height. He's intensely demanding. He's really the architect of all the drama that follows.
We also have Willie Scott. He's the screenwriter trying to adapt Jane's book. He's he's perpetually hopeful, but maybe a bit superficial.
And finally, Benny Lockhart. Jane's estranged father. His painful past is really the emotional fuel for this entire creative engine.
So we're stepping into this really complex ecosystem where every single relationship feels transactional. So we have to start with the foundational meeting. The first time Jane and Tom ever meet, it instantly sets up this massive tower differential.
Oh, immediately. The sources describe Jane as being so nervous, almost reverent.
Yeah, she touches his award, right? The Young European Publisher of the Year runner-up award.
And then apologizes for molesting it. That one little detail tells you everything you need to know about her vulnerability. She's the artist approaching the gate.
And he's the gatekeeper. She's offering up her deepest self in this manuscript. And Tom's response is just, it's all cool, calculated business.
His initial assessment of her first manuscript, which was called The Endless Anguish of My Father, it's just designed to be a blow. He says it needs work, a lot of work.
It's the classic move, isn't it? Tear them down before you build them back up, because he immediately follows that with the payoff.
But it has potential.
So I'm going to publish it. I'm offering you a 2-book. And just like that, he establishes himself as this benevolent tyrant who sees the potential no one else.
And that 2-book deal is so important. It locks her in right away. It ensures that whatever vulnerability she showed in book 1 is now under contract for a sequel.
And you see just how exposed she feels because she immediately starts crying.
Right. And she admits she keeps this physical collection of rejection letters. She calls it her board of pain.
The board of pain. What a vivid metaphor for the economy that creative people have to operate in. You're expected to use that pain as fuel.
But Tom, he's not sympathetic at all. He finds it completely normal.
He dismisses it because for him, that insecurity, that history of failure, it's not an obstacle. It's the ideal psychological profile for a writer.
He knows a writer with a board of pain is driven. They're susceptible to validation, and therefore they are highly malleable.
This is the first real insight of philosophy. He sees her misery not as a tragedy,
but as reliable, bankable currency.
Exactly. And that currency exchange, it leads directly to the first major conflict, which is all about marketing and brand.
The title.
Tom insists the original title, The Endless Anguish of My Father, must go.
And he doesn't just suggest a change. He does it unilaterally. He renames it Happy Ending.
Which is a massive pivot. The original title is literary, it's dark, it's about generational trauma.
And the new one is commercial, it's uplifting, it promises resolution. It completely changes the promise the book is making to the reader.
So Jane is, understandably furious. She points out they never even talked about it.
And Tom's justification is just chilling. It's so proprietary. He just says, I knew how you'd react, darling.
He sees her emotional opinion as a predictable variable, something to be easily circumvented in his commercial equation.
It says so much about the perceived distance between the writer who creates the art and the publisher who creates the product.
And Jane feels that betrayal so... She says to him, All that time we spent together working on the manuscript, no one's ever got me the...
She mistook his intense professional collaboration, his deep understanding of her pain, for personal validation, for respect.
And that's the crucial distinction, isn't it? Collaboration versus validate. When he changes the title, it's a professional act, but for her, it feels like a personal betrayal of that intimacy she thought they had.
And Tom just doubles down. He calls the original title terrible, but it's about more than that. He's forcing her to accept that the commercial narrative of her pain has to have a palatable, marketable conclusion.
Regardless of its artistic, he is dictating the emotional delivery mechanism of her own trauma.
Which brings us right to the early seeds of his whole theory. His toxic yet, you have to admit, commercially astute, pain is muse theory.
He delivers this astonishingly cruel assessment of her. He accuses her of being a moderately talented writer whose loser dad left her with an inability to stop worshiping her own pain.
Wow. I mean, that's not just an insult. That is Tom defining her brand.
Right. He's basically saying her entire artistic identity, and more importantly, her commercial viability, is rooted in her unresolved suffering.
So if her pain is the source of her success,
then happiness must logically be the source of her failure. And that sets the stage for everything that comes next.
We should probably pause on that for a second, because this idea that suffering is necessary for great art, it's so pervasive in creative industries.
It really is. The whole tortured artist trope. Why is that myth so powerful, and how does Tom just weaponize it so effectively?
Well, it romanticizes trauma, doesn't it? It makes the artist's life story part of the product. And Tom, being the shrewd operator he is, he knows that Jane's debut success wasn't just about her prose, it was about the perceived authenticity of the pain in her story.
So by accusing her of worshiping her pain, he's subtly saying, I know the source of your material, and I control it now.
Exactly. The critique functions as both a diagnosis of her talent and a prescription for her future success. The subtext is, keep suffering, keep writing.
So Jane is now defined, controlled, and profited from by her own misery, and now that misery is ending.
Right. The debut is a hit, she's found some stability, and now she faces dreaded sophomore novel.
And that's where the real crisis...
Okay, so moving into the next section. Jane is now contractually obligated to deliver book 2, but she is just profoundly blocked.
And the sources give us this wonderful piece of narrative shorthand to show us her mental... She's baking.
She only bakes when she's blocked.
It's the perfect analogy for productive avoidance. Baking is tangible, it's measurable, it has a clear reward at the end.
It's a controlled form of creation to avoid the terrifying, formless challenge of the blank page.
All that creative energy gets channeled into bread and cakes instead of the novel. And that terrifying blank page is personified in her mind as El Toro Blanco.
The white bull.
Yeah.
Even the name suggests a monster, a formidable, charging threat that she has to actively retreat from.
And El Toro Blanco really represents the fear of failure, pressure of expectation.
And the contractual reality that her creative output is no longer a personal exploration. It's a mandatory commercial delivery. She's paralyzed because she knows the first book was fueled by genuine trauma, and she thinks she has nothing that emotionally intense left to offer now that she's happy.
And while she's battling the white bull in her kitchen, we meet Willie Scott, her screenwriter boyfriend, who offers some really superficial advice for her block.
Willie is the complete antithesis of Jane's internal struggle.
Yeah.
His advice is all external, all immediate fixes.
Stimulants and narcotics.
Or writing naked to release yourself from the restrictions of the everyday.
He's just operating in the shallow end of the creative pool. He thinks a gimmick is the path to output. He completely misses the deep emotional root of her block.
And Willie's uselessness just confirms Tom's hardening belief. Tom decides Jane's stability and happiness are the problem.
He states it completely unapologetically. No misery, no poetry.
And with that, he kicks off the misery plan.
This is where the story shifts from, publishing drama to calculated psychological.
What's so fascinating about Tom and his colleague, Rhodey, is the almost military precision they apply to this emotional intervention.
They use battlefield language. Oscar Mike.
Target acquired. 5 clicks from distraction.
They are treating Jane's emotional equilibrium like an enemy fortress that needs to be. And Tom's explicit goal is to return her to the fragile mental state in which she wrote her highly profitable debut.
And they're aiming for a very specific type of misery. The target state isn't rage or desperation, it's melancholy.
That dull sense of dissociation and alienation, that's the source of every artist's creativity. It's like train blocker for novels.
The choice of words there, melancholy. Dissociation. It's so specific. It's not about making her cry. It's about making her feel that specific ache of existential loneliness that fuels introspective writing.
He even references the Romantic poet Keats, trying to link his crude psychological strategy, centuries of high art theory.
And that combination, the military jargon for the execution and Keats for the justification, is the perfect encapsulation of Tom's intellectualized cynicism.
He's leveraging a deep cultural myth, the suffering artist, to maximize his commercial return. He is consciously trying to manufacture,
which of course immediately raises huge ethical questions.
Yeah.
And we see Roddy, Tom's accomplice, he recognizes how morally compromised the whole plan is.
Roddy says, "That's seriously messed up. They teach her this stuff in France."
And Tom's reply is completely dismissed. He just treats it like advanced business strategy. We study abroad curriculum.
That exchange makes the ethical collapse totally explicit. The source material doesn't let Tom hide behind tough love. It shows that for him, the psychological well-being of his writer is secondary to the need for product.
And we have to remember the context of that delivery. We learn later that his company, Wuthering Heights, is facing compulsory liquidation.
That phrase, compulsory liquidation, it's industry jargon for imminent forced bankruptcy. So Jane's book isn't just a bestseller for him, it's a financial lifeline.
That financial panic explains why his psychological warfare is so aggressive and so immediate. He has to recreate the emotional conditions of the first book, and he has to do it now.
So with the financial stakes set, the misery plan is a go. And the immediate targets are the two main sources of Jane's newfound happiness, Willie Scott
and her fragile, newly reconciled relationship with her father, Benny.
So the misery plan kicks off with military precision. The first target is Will. Tom's directive, crystal clear. First, we get rid of Willie, then we work on Papa.
Willie represents stable, low-key happiness. You know, the kind of domestic comfort that Tom believes stifles the melancholy he needs from Jane.
So Tom launches this very public, calculated attack on Willie's professional credibility. He calls him a talentless hack without a brain or a conscience.
And he says his career picked sometime around 1998. Just a brutal, targeted insult to sow doubt in Jane's mind.
But the real sabotage is operate. It's a setup. Tom engineers a completely fake, high-profile meeting for Willie.
Right, in the ass end of nowhere, as the source puts it. And he does it by mentioning that Willie is being scouted by the legendary director Steven Soderbergh.
That specific detail, Soderbergh, is perfect. He's dangling the ultimate Hollywood carrot.
And the sources reveal Willie's profound professional insecurity when he tells Jane, "They called me and that just never happened." He's so desperate for a break, he doesn't question how absurd it is.
Tom exploits that insecurity to get Willie out of Jane's life immediately. His absence creates the emotional void that Tom needs for the next phase of the plan.
So with Willie off chasing this phantom movie deal, the focus shifts to Benny, Jane's father, the original source of her trauma, and therefore the fuel for her debut novel.
And their relationship is just starting to mend. It's centered around a pub quiz, Benny Lockhart's jet.
Even the reason she's on the team has this layer of pathos. Benny says their regular teammate is showing signs of early dementia, so Jane can take his spot. The stakes are low, a pub quiz, but the emotional gravity is immense.
And the sources really dive deep into Jane's childhood trauma. We see exactly what Tom wants her to re-engage. She remembers this painful memory from the Edinburgh.
Monkeys throwing rotten food, her slipping and fracturing her foot.
And what's so fascinating is how she processed that in her writing. In her novel, she fictionalized it. She changed the vicious monkey to less threatening penguins throwing fruit.
It shows the writer's instinct to soften things, to protect herself from the full intensity of her past. Tom needs her to stop using that penguin filter and get back to the unfiltered monkey reality.
But then Benny's confession just elevates this whole thing. He explains why he's so desperate to win the quiz final. The prize is a trip to the real Disneyland.
He wants that prize because he confesses he completely ruined Jane's 7th. He says he lost it over dinner and walked.
And then comes the crush. This walkout happened just 2 minutes before the police brought her mother home. Her mother had dropped dead.
2 minutes. That tiny window connects his parental failure, walking out on his 7-year-old daughter directly to the ultimate tragedy. His tantrum was the final moment before her life imploded.
And he confesses that he wants the Disneyland trip to make amends to that 7-year-old Jane who never got her happy ending.
I mean, this is profound. This isn't just about a pub quiz anymore. It's an act of deep emotional atonement. And this potential reconciliation, this chance for a real-life happy ending to their shared trauma, is the single biggest threat to Tom's misery.
If Jane finds peace with Benny, her original creative fuel source is gone.
The stakes are too high for Tom. He decides to escalate the sabotage, manufacturing what they coldly call low-level unhappiness.
We see these little examples of calculated cruelty. They destroy the baby money plan.
A gift from Benny, signifying their fragile new relationship. Roddy even uses military terms for this petty vandalism, and Tom has to tell him, "It's a pot plant, Brody, not a North Korean reactor."
which highlights how they see any emotional stability as a strategic target to be neutralized.
But the decisive blow is aimed squarely at the quiz final. Tom intercepts Benny's taxi on the way to the competition.
Benny's trying to get to the Walter Scott pub, but Tom redirects the driver to the Ravi Buns.
It's pure, ruthless sabotage. It's designed to make sure Benny misses the start and forfeits his chance to win that Disneyland trip.
And the cynicism of it is just compounded by the fact that Benny, still in the cab, has no idea who Tom is. He thinks he's an ally and just pours his heart out.
He confesses about spending Jane's Mickey Mouse money on booze. He talks about his deep need to get her to the real Disneyland. And Tom is just absorbing all this genuine human pain while actively dismantling any chance of relief.
The result is immediate and devastating. Benny misses the final, he forfeits, and in his heartbreak he calls Jane too late and finally just tells the quiz adjudicator, "I'm sorry, F you, sir."
And this engineered unhappiness is a direct win for Tom's plan. He has successfully reintroduced the pain and abandonment that fueled Jane's debut.
And what's interesting is, the plan is working not by making Jane angry, but by making her experience that targeted state he was aiming for. Melancholy, dissociation, that quiet ache of disappointment, exactly the feeling he believes generates poetry. So Tom's campaign of manufactured misery seems to be working, but things are rapidly starting to unravel.
First, Willie Scott comes back. He returns from his disastrous fake Soderbergh meeting completely miserable.
Soaked after walking for 9 hours in the rain because his phone.
And the great irony is that this manufactured misery doesn't cause him to break up with Jane. It forces him to realize what he actually valued. He comes back and tells her, "You're the best thing in my life," and impulsively proposed.
So Tom's operation to create distance accidentally cemented their relationship, a total backfire.
But Willie brings a double betrayal with him. In his screenplay adaptation of Happy Ending, he changed the sad literary ending that Jane wrote
to a neat, commercially appealing happy one.
And he justifies it with pure commercial logic. Who the hell wants to walk out of a movie feeling miserable?
Willie really represents that ultimate, uncompromising demand for market satisfaction. He even claims the change says more about my love for her than I could ever put in.
A love expressed through box office viability. It's fascinating. It forces this direct comparison between the two men trying to control her narrative. Tom forced the title Happy Ending, and now Willie has forced the actual happy ending.
And this is where Tom's motivation gets really complex and almost contradictory to his own misery plan.
Right. Instead of celebrating this commercial fix, Tom forces Willie to change the ending back to the sad one.
Why? Why would the publisher who's facing compulsory liquidation actively sabotage the commercial prospects of his blockbuster adaptation?
This is the critical turning. Tom weaponizes their shared obsession with Jane's creative truth. He tells Willie, if you truly love her, change.
It proves that Tom's goal isn't just about the paycheck from the movie. He is prioritizing Jane's creative source for the next.
He needs her to maintain her artistic integrity, which he equates with pain, because that is what will fuel the manuscript he so desperately needs her to deliver.
So he's willing to sacrifice commercial gain on the adaptation, cure the authenticity of her sophomore novel?
Exactly. The authenticity of the sad ending is paradoxically more valuable to him than a happy movie end, because it reinforces Jane's belief that her truth lies in sadness. It keeps her in that productive state of melancholy.
Okay, so the stage is now set for the final. Jane has actually finished the novel. Roddy confirms she dropped off.
But she's hiding the physical copy. She's refusing to deliver it to Tom. So El Toro Blanco, the block, it seems to be gone, but she's withholding the final product.
And her revelation, this is the profound psychological core of this entire deep dive. She finally confronts Tom and just yells, "You're my block, Tom."
Let's just sit with that for a moment. Her block wasn't a lack of inspiration or depression or even El Toro Blanco. Her creative paralysis was rooted entirely in her intense, codependent relationship with her publisher.
She explains the shocking motivation. An insane part of me didn't want to finish the novel because once it was delivered, the 2-book contract would be over.
And she would have no reason to see Tom ever again.
The block was a subconscious mechanism to prolong their professional relationship, which, through all the cruelty and manipulation, had become the most intense personal connect her life.
She confused high-stakes professional intensity for necessary emotional intimacy.
And this revelation just shatters Tom's entire premise. His manipulation was based on the idea that misery fuels art. But the art was already finished. The problem was the end of it, not the start of the writing.
Faced with this, Tom just confessed immediately. He admits the manuscript she dropped off doesn't even work. The last chapter, it doesn't work. It needs a rewrite.
And then the big one, I was wrong. He finally separates the artistic necessity from his psychological abuse. His manipulation failed, and the art suffered anyway.
That's the key moment. His vulnerability, his admission of failure, finally opens the door for a true resolution.
And this leads to the revelation of his true source of stress. He confesses he had sold Wandering Heights to Pandemic Media.
He sold the company because he was facing compulsory liquidation. His ruthless behavior wasn't just megalomania, it was a desperate attempt to save his company.
But the sale isn't surrender. It's a strategic move to protect Jane. He made sure that as part of the deal, Jane could take all the time you need for the last chapter.
He sacrificed his control, his identity, to secure her artistic freedom. He made her art a non-negotiable term of the sale.
And then the final brilliant publishing coup. He doesn't just let her go. He makes Jane the new hardline discipline manager responsible for stopping his own usual extravagance.
He transfers his own professional discipline onto her, cementing their roles as collaborators, but now with her in a position of control.
And Jane, having received this unprecedented level of respect, accepts the new deal. 2 more books, plus an option for a 3rd, exclusive.
Requiring them to work very, very closely with an excessive amount of notes. It confirms their very specific, codependent, but now functional future.
And now she has the security to finally write the definitive ending. She realizes that the saddest endings always seem the truest.
Her final ending for her character, Darcy, encapsulates everything she finds peace, not in a fairy tale, but in acceptance.
I won't get to spend the rest of my life with him, but I was loved.
That is the writer's true happy ending. Authenticity achieved through emotional acceptance, not commercial convenience or manufactured misery.
And the sources leave us with this final, wonderfully bizarre image that just signals her. We see Jane signing copies of her new novel.
Working with Tom, professionally and personally.
And the confirmation that Jane Lockhart is only the 2nd writer in English to design and build her own hovercraft.
The hovercraft, it's the ultimate metaphor, isn't it? It's a literal elevation above the messy world of manipulation and financial pressure. She's risen above the conflict, built her own means of escape, and found true creative autonomy.
So let's circle back and synthesize what we've really gained from this deep dive. We started by looking at these dramatic excerpts and walked away with, well, a masterclass in the pressures and psychological games of the publishing industry.
We got this incredibly detailed insight into the pressure of the sophomore novel, the weaponization of trauma that's often mistaken for tough love.
And that surprisingly complex, codependent relationship between an artist and their source of validation.
And the core tension we saw throughout the whole narrative fascinated. Tom spent the entire second half trying to enforce artistic truth, which he mistakenly thought was only rooted in pain, through these cynical commercial means.
And Willie, on the other hand, pushed for purely commercial success, the happy ending out of genuine, if superficial, love.
And neither external force worked, not the calculated misery, not the commercial love. Nothing worked until Jane understood her own internal motivation.
Tom's journey from manipulator to confessor shows that resolving the relationship, admitting his own weakness, his financial trouble, his professional need for her, that's what ultimately resolved the creative problem.
The block was never about the word. It was about preventing the end of the connection.
And Jane's genius, in the end, wasn't dependent on misery at all. It was dependent on authenticity.
Which she achieved through self-awareness. Her final line, "I was loved and that's enough," is the complete antithesis of that toxic worshiping her pain Tom first gave her.
It's an embrace of her past truth without needing to perpetuate current suffering. She achieved her authentic ending, and paradoxically, that authenticity is what secured her future commercial success.
So it leaves you with this really provocative thought, right? The material is pretty clear that Jane's block wasn't about the book, it was about Tom. It was about fearing that final ending.
The end of the relationship, yeah.
So it makes you wonder, for you, listening, what relationships or job situations, maybe even just personal habit, what might you be subconsciously protecting?
To avoid a definitive ending.
Exactly, to avoid closing that chapter. Something to consider, I suppose, the next time you are facing your own blank page.
Or perhaps your next finished chapter.